Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Green Hack. Imagine two gardeners standing in front of the same tree. The first gardener studies the branches and asks a practical question. How can I help this tree grow better? The second gardener looks at that same tree and asks something completely different. How can I help this tree become more beautiful? At first, those questions sound similar. Both gardeners care about the tree. Both will probably pick up a pair of pruning shears. Both may remove branches, yet the goal behind every cut is different, and that small difference can completely change the way a garden looks. Most gardeners are familiar with pruning. We remove dead wood. We cut damaged branches. We encourage healthy growth. We shape shrubs that have become too large. In many American gardens, pruning is often viewed as a tool for improvement. The purpose is usually practical. More flowers, more fruit, better air circulation, stronger growth, a healthier plant. The question is often simple. What can this cut help the plant achieve? This approach makes perfect sense. Gardening in America has long been connected to productivity. Even ornamental gardens often reflect this mindset. Homeowners want plants that grow well, bloom beautifully, and remain healthy throughout the season. Fruit trees are pruned to increase harvests. Flowering shrubs are trimmed to encourage stronger blooming. Overgrown plants are cut back so they can return with fresh growth. Every cut has a purpose, and that purpose is usually connected to performance. Walk through a typical American garden center and you will hear advice focused on results. Prune at the right time, remove weak growth, improve airflow, increase flowering, encourage branching. The language itself reveals the priority. Growth is often the goal. The plant is expected to become bigger, stronger, fuller, or more productive. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this approach. In fact, many beautiful American gardens depend on it. Healthy growth creates lush landscapes. Flowering plants produce spectacular displays. Fruit trees reward careful maintenance. Well-pruned shrubs create structure and order. Pruning becomes one of the most valuable tools a gardener can learn. But what happens when growth is no longer the primary goal? That is where many Japanese gardens begin telling a different story. In traditional Japanese garden design, pruning is not always focused on helping a plant become larger. In some cases, the goal is almost the opposite. Instead of encouraging more growth, the gardener may carefully limit growth. Instead of creating fullness, they may create openness. Instead of maximizing foliage, they may remove large amounts of it. To many Western visitors, this can seem surprising. Why spend years helping a tree grow only to remove so much of it? The answer begins with a different definition of success. Many American gardeners look at a healthy plant and see abundance. Dense foliage, strong growth, full branches, a vigorous appearance. Japanese gardeners certainly appreciate healthy plants as well, but they often pay equal attention to something else: shape, balance, character, the overall silhouette of the tree. Imagine two pine trees growing side by side. One is allowed to follow its natural growth habit with only basic maintenance. The other is carefully shaped over many years. Branches are selected, some are shortened, others are removed entirely. Open spaces appear between layers of foliage. The tree becomes less dense, yet somehow more noticeable. The viewer begins seeing individual branches rather than a solid mass of greenery. This is where the comparison becomes fascinating. Americans often prune to improve a plant. Japanese gardens often prune to reveal a plant. That single idea changes everything. Instead of asking how much a tree can grow, the gardener begins asking what beauty is hidden inside it. Instead of focusing on quantity, attention shifts toward form. Instead of measuring success by fullness, success may be measured by clarity. The most surprising thing is that both approaches require patience. Neither gardener is taking shortcuts. Both are investing years into their landscape. Yet they are working toward different destinations. One hopes for stronger growth. The other hopes for stronger expression. And the deeper you explore Japanese pruning, the more surprising that difference becomes. Because the most important decision is often not which branch gets removed, It is which branch gets left behind. If American pruning often begins with the question, how can this plant grow better? Many Japanese gardens begin with a different question. What is this tree trying to become? That difference may sound subtle, but it changes the entire relationship between the gardener and the plant. When many people first see a carefully shaped Japanese pine tree, they assume it was created quickly through aggressive pruning. The reality is usually the opposite. Some trees have been shaped gradually over decades. Every cut is part of a long conversation between the gardener and the tree. The goal is not to force the plant into an artificial form. The goal is to reveal qualities that already exist within it. This idea can be difficult to understand at first because modern gardening often celebrates speed. We enjoy fast growth. We enjoy dramatic transformations. We enjoy visible results. Japanese garden pruning often moves at a completely different pace. The gardener may spend years improving a silhouette that most visitors barely notice. A branch may be guided gradually rather than removed immediately. Small adjustments accumulate over time until the tree begins expressing a sense of balance that feels natural rather than imposed. This is one of the reasons Japanese gardens often create such a powerful impression. The trees do not simply look healthy, they look intentional. Every branch appears to belong exactly where it is. Every opening between layers of foliage serves a purpose. Every angle contributes to the overall composition. Imagine standing in front of a mature pine tree. Many gardeners see hundreds of branches. A Japanese garden designer often sees something else. They see lines, movement, direction, balance. The tree is no longer viewed as a collection of branches. It becomes a living sculpture. That does not mean the gardener is trying to dominate nature. In fact, many Japanese pruning techniques are based on observing how trees grow in nature. Wind, age, gravity, and weather all influence the character of wild trees. Japanese garden design often seeks to capture some of that character. A tree shaped by decades of mountain winds may inspire the appearance of a garden pine. A branch reaching toward light may become an important feature rather than something to remove. This creates another interesting contrast with many American gardens. American pruning often focuses on improving the future performance of a plant. Japanese pruning often focuses on improving the present experience of seeing it. One asks how the plant can grow better tomorrow. The other asks how the plant can communicate beauty today. Neither approach is superior. Both reflect different priorities. Yet the visual results can be dramatically different. Consider a shrub growing near a pathway. In many American gardens, pruning may be used to keep the shrub healthy, attractive, and properly sized. The gardener removes damaged growth and encourages a pleasing form. The plant remains lush and full. In a Japanese garden, the same shrub might be thinned significantly. Interior branches may be revealed. Open spaces may appear between clusters of foliage. To someone unfamiliar with the style, it may initially seem like too much has been removed. Yet as the eye adjusts, something remarkable happens. The structure of the plant becomes visible. Light begins moving through it. Individual branches gain character. What once looked like a green mass begins looking like a living work of art. This is where many visitors experience their first real understanding of Japanese pruning. The goal is not simply to reduce growth. The goal is to reveal form. And revealing form often requires removing things that are technically healthy. That idea feels almost uncomfortable to many gardeners. We are trained to remove dead wood, diseased branches, and damaged growth. Removing healthy growth can feel wasteful. Yet Japanese garden designers frequently accept this trade-off. A healthy branch may disappear if it disrupts the balance of the tree. Dense foliage may be thinned if it hides an important line. Growth is respected, but growth is not always allowed to dominate the design. The most surprising thing is that these decisions often make the tree appear older rather than younger. A dense young tree usually looks vigorous. A carefully shaped tree with visible structure often looks mature and timeless. The gardener is not merely shaping a plant. They are shaping the way time is perceived. And perhaps that is why some Japanese trees leave such a lasting impression. Visitors may not understand exactly what they are seeing, but they recognize that something feels different. The tree seems calm, balanced, established. It feels connected to the landscape around it rather than competing with it. This brings us to one of the most important lessons in the entire video. Great pruning is not always about what is removed. It is about what becomes visible afterward. A branch hidden inside dense foliage cannot be appreciated. The movement of a trunk cannot be seen if leaves cover everything. The relationship between one branch and another disappears when growth becomes too crowded. Sometimes the act of removing allows the most important features to emerge. Think about a sculptor working with stone. The final artwork is not created by adding material. It is created by removing material. Japanese pruning often follows a similar philosophy. The gardener gradually removes what is unnecessary until the essential character of the tree becomes easier to see. And once you begin looking at pruning this way, an even bigger question appears. Is the purpose of pruning to create growth? Or is the purpose of pruning to reveal beauty? The answer may depend entirely on what kind of garden you hope to create. One of the most interesting questions in gardening is not what we choose to remove, it is what we choose to keep. Every gardener eventually learns how to cut a branch. The deeper challenge is deciding which branch deserves to remain. This is where Japanese garden pruning often surprises Western visitors. Many people assume the focus is on removing growth. In reality, the focus is often on preserving the right growth. A Japanese gardener may spend far more time studying a tree than cutting it. They observe how branches interact with one another. They notice how sunlight moves through the canopy. They consider how the tree will look not only this season, but many years into the future. In many American gardens, success is often visible through results. More flowers, more fruit, fuller shrubs, stronger growth. These are practical goals, and they provide practical rewards. A healthy garden is something every gardener can appreciate. When a flowering shrub produces more blooms than ever before, it is easy to see the value of careful pruning. Japanese gardens often pursue a different reward. The reward is not always measured by how much the plant produces. Sometimes it is measured by how the plant makes people feel. A carefully shaped pine tree may never produce more flowers. It may never provide fruit, yet it creates something equally valuable: presence, character, a sense of calm that becomes part of the entire landscape. This is why Japanese pruning often focuses so carefully on what remains. The gardener is not simply removing branches, they are selecting the features that tell the story of the tree. A graceful curve in the trunk, a branch reaching outward toward open space, a subtle asymmetry that creates visual interest. These features become more powerful when surrounding distractions are reduced. The process can almost feel backwards to someone raised with a productivity mindset. We often assume improvement means adding more growth, more flowers, more foliage, more results. Japanese pruning suggests another possibility. Sometimes improvement comes from revealing what is already there. This idea appears throughout Japanese garden design. We saw it in the previous video when discussing empty space. We see it again in pruning. Beauty is often discovered through clarity rather than abundance. The goal is not to create more. The goal is to see more clearly. And that brings us to the central comparison of this entire video. Americans often prune for growth. Japanese gardens often prune for beauty. At first glance, these goals may seem completely different. Yet they share something important. Both begin with care. Both require patience. Both require observation. Both require respect for the plant. The difference is not whether the gardener cares. The difference is what the gardener hopes to achieve. One gardener looks at a tree and imagines its future growth. The other looks at the same tree and imagines its future character. One asks how large the tree can become. The other asks what beauty the tree can reveal. Neither answer is wrong. In fact, many gardeners eventually discover they appreciate both perspectives. There are times when growth matters. A young fruit tree may need encouragement. A flowering shrub may benefit from stronger blooming. A struggling plant may need every advantage it can get. practical pruning remains incredibly valuable. There are also moments when beauty becomes the priority. A mature tree may no longer need rapid growth. A garden may already contain enough plants. At that point, attention naturally shifts towards shape, balance, and experience. The gardener begins asking different questions. Instead of wondering how much more can be produced, they wonder how much more can be appreciated. Perhaps that is why pruning becomes more interesting with age. Ganders spend their early years learning how to grow things. Later, some begin learning how to see things. Growth remains important, but appreciation becomes equally important. A tree is no longer valued only for what it does. It is valued for what it expresses. This lesson extends beyond gardening. Much of life follows a similar pattern. When we are younger, we often focus on expansion. We want more experiences, more achievements, more progress. As the years pass, many people begin paying greater attention to quality rather than quantity. They become more selective, more intentional, more aware of what deserves space in their lives. In a way, pruning is simply another form of that wisdom. Every cut represents a choice. Every choice reflects a priority. And over time, those choices shape the final result. The same is true for gardens. The same is true for trees. And perhaps the same is true for life itself. So the next time you pick up a pair of pruning shears, consider asking yourself two questions. The first is familiar. How can this plant grow better? The second may be less familiar. What beauty is already here, waiting to be revealed? You may discover that both questions have value, and the answer you choose may shape your garden in ways you never expected. Thank you for spending time with us here at The Green Hack. If this video gave you a new perspective on pruning, we would love to hear from you. Do you prune mainly for healthier growth? Or do you find yourself paying more attention to shape and beauty as the years go by? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And in our next episode, we will explore another fascinating difference between American and Japanese approaches to gardening, design, and everyday life. Until then, take a closer look at the trees around you. They may be telling a story that only becomes visible when you learn what to leave behind.